You live an entire life while seven forces. Nature want lust, money, power, fear, and time. Take turns whispering that they're the real reason you or anyone gets out of bed. Before you had a name, you had a want. Before you had a want, you had a body. That's the order nobody tells you about. Everyone talks about life like it starts with a choice, like somewhere a small soul sat in a waiting room and picked a personality off a shelf. It didn't happen like that. It happened like this: a single cell dividing, then again, then a heartbeat, faint, fast, insistent, keeping time before there was anything to keep time for. Something in you started wanting before you existed to do the wanting. That's the part they leave out of the story. You didn't arrive and then start desiring things. The desiring is what arrived. You what it built to carry itself around in. So let's not start with once upon a time. Let's start with the truth. In the beginning, there was hunger, and hunger looked at the dark and said, "Breathe." Everyone claps when a baby cries. Nobody claps for what the cry actually is. It's not joy, it's a complaint. You arrived and immediately had a grievance. It's cold, I'm hungry, put me back. Your very first act on earth was a protest against the terms of the deal. Congratulations, you just met nature. And nature doesn't negotiate. She just repeats herself until you comply. Nature says, I'm not going to introduce myself with poetry. I don't do poetry. Idomaf. Every hour, you'll need air. Every few hours, food. Every night, sleep. Or I'll take your mind apart piece by piece until you give it to me. This isn't cruelty. This is accounting. You are a bag of processes that must stay balanced, where the bag stops being a person and starts being weather itself, scattered, returned, unremembered. This is the part nobody frames on the wall. Your very first relationship, before your mother's face had a name, before you knew you had hands, was a business arrangement with your own body. Feed me or lose me. That's the first contract you ever signed, and you signed it in a scream. Here's the part that should be obvious, but isn't. Everything that comes later, the money, the ambition, the heartbreak, the empire building, all of it is downstream from this one unglamorous fact. You are a system that runs on fuel and will do almost anything to keep the fuel coming. We just got very good at making the fuel seeking look complicated. We built cities so the hunger wouldn't feel like hunger. We invented careers so the fear wouldn't feel like fear. But underneath the suit, underneath the wedding ring, underneath the framed diploma, there's still a creature in a crib, keeping score of who fed it and who didn't. Nature whispers, I'm not your enemy. Everyone treats me like the villain of the story, man versus nature, like I'm something to conquer. I'm not fighting you. I am you. I'm just a version of you that was here first and will be here last. And she fades, not gone, just quiet, the way a heartbeat becomes quiet once you stop listening for it. You grow up, maybe 6 years old, watching another child hold a toy you don't have. Here's the moment nobody puts in the baby book. It doesn't happen at a birthday party. It happens on an ordinary Tuesday on a patch of gravel when you see that another kid has something you don't. And for the first time in your life, having enough stops being enough. A new figure appears beside you, not threatening, almost childlike itself. This is want. It should look sly, quick, a little mischievous, the origin of every more that was ever felt. Want says hi with a kid's voice. I'm new. Well, I'm not new. I'm actually the oldest thing here. But this is the first time you've noticed me. Want is nature's younger, more dramatic sibling. Nature says survive. Want says survive better than him. Nature is about the body. Want is about the story the body gets to tell about itself. Want says to you, you don't actually want the toy. You want what the toy means. You want to matter in a world that's 10 billion years old and was doing just fine without you. That's not greed, kid. That's math too. If nobody notices you, it's like you were never here at all. This is the moment most stories skip because it's not cute enough for the highlight reel. But it's the real founding moment of every human life. The day you learn that existing isn't enough, that you have to exist visibly, exist comparatively, or some part of you will feel like it's disappearing in real time. Money hasn't been invented yet, not for you. Power is just a bigger kid on a slide. But the seed of both just got planted in a patch of gravel, and it's going to grow for the next 80 years. You, now a teenager, staring at the ceiling. Phone lights on your face, then off. The room feels different than it did a year ago, charged somehow. Now a new voice shows up, and it's the one everyone gets embarrassed about because we've spent centuries dressing it up as either a sin or a joke. It's neither. It's the oldest software in the building, running quietly under everything else, and one day it just turns the volume up. Lust enters, not seductive in a cheap way. This should feel raw, honest, almost vulnerable rather than sleazy. Like something ancient wearing a teenager's nervous heartbeat. Lust says, everyone's so afraid of me. Priests warn about me. Comedians make me a punchline. Parents change the subject when I show up. Nobody just tells you the truth. So let me. Lust says I'm not here to ruin you. I'm the reason there's a you at all. Every ancestor you have, going back past kings, past cave fires, past the first thing that could be called an animal. Every single one of them felt this exact pull and acted on it. You are quite literally a chain of decisions made by creatures who couldn't resist me. I'm not your flaw. I'm your receipt. We call it temptation like it's trying to trick you. It isn't. It's just nature's oldest argument, restated for a body that's finally ready to hear it. Continue. Don't let this line in with you. But, and this is the part that gets lost in both the shame sermons and the shallow celebration. Lust doesn't care about you specifically. It never has. It cares about continuation, the species, the pattern. It will happily burn your particular one-time only life down to get what it wants and call that a fair trade. Because from its accounting, it is one, 1,000 generations for one. Lust whispers to me. So here's my honest advice, and it's the only piece of advice I'll ever give you. I'm not lying when I tell you this feels like love. Sometimes it becomes love, but I am not my self-love. Don't confuse the ache with the person who happens to be standing near it when it arrives. That mistake alone will cost people entire decades. This is the age everyone remembers as chaotic and calls it hormones, like that explains it and closes the subject. It doesn't close the subject. It's the moment you discover that your body has opinions older than your mind, and the rest of your life is partly a negotiation between the two. And now, the one everyone thinks they understand, and almost nobody does. Money enters. Resist every cliche. No top hat, no cigar, no cackling villain. Money looks almost boring, practical, like a clerk, because that's closer to the truth. Money. Everyone treats me like I'm evil. Money is the root of all evil. Half quoted, by the way, the real line is about the love of money, not money itself, but nobody fact checks a good sermon. So let me correct the record. Here's the reframe nobody gives you. Money isn't wealth. Money is frozen trust. Money says before I existed. If you wanted something from a stranger, you had to trust them directly. Trust that they'd remember the favor. Trust that they'd pay you back in goats or grain or loyalty someday, somehow. That doesn't scale. You can't run a city on remembered favors. So people invented me, a way to carry trust in your pocket, portable, transferable, owed to no one in particular. I'm not greed. I'm memory, made spendable. This is the part that gets lost in every money is fake. It's just paper, TikTok philosophy. Paper or not, what it represents is completely real. Every dollar is a small, compressed record of someone, somewhere, having done something someone else valued enough to trade for. Money isn't the opposite of meaning. It's meaning dehydrated so it can survive shipping. Money leaning into my ear, here's my one warning, and it's the only one I'll give. I was built to be a tool for trading value. Somewhere along the way, people started treating me like I was the value. That's the whole tragedy in one sentence. A hammer that thinks it's the house. You'll spend the next 20, 30, 40 years of your life exchanging hours of your one, non-refundable existence for units of frozen trust and calling it a job, a career getting ahead. That's not shameful. That's the actual machinery of a species too large to run on memory and handshakes anymore. The tragedy isn't wanting money. The tragedy is forgetting what it was for. Money doesn't dramatically vanish. It just sits down at the table with the bill like it's always going to be there now. Because it will. Years have passed. You sit somewhere with a little more authority than before. A promotion, a title, a team that answers to you. It should feel like an achievement. It doesn't quite. And now the one people are most dishonest about, because admitting you want it makes you sound like a villain in your own story. Power enters. Should not look grand. Should look almost anxious, because that's the twist coming. Power. Go ahead. Say it. I don't care about power. I just want to do good work. Everyone says that line. Almost nobody means it completely. Here's the truth under the truth. Here's the other perspective, the one that never makes it into the leadership seminars. I'm not really about control. I'm about fear wearing crown. Nobody chases me because they feel safe. They chase me because somewhere back in Act 1, in that hospital room, in that schoolyard, they learned that being small means being at the mercy of everyone bigger. So they grow, they climb, they collect titles and teams and keys to rooms other people can't enter. Not because it feels like winning, but because it feels for a moment like safety. This is the part every power corrupts, cliche skips over. Power doesn't usually corrupt calm people. It corrupts frightened people who finally got hold of something big enough to make the fear stop, even for a minute, and then discover the fear doesn't stop. They just get the bigger office. Power, quietly, with almost sad voice, I'll be honest with you, since nobody else will. I've never once made anyone feel safe for longer than it took to notice the next person standing slightly above them. I'm not a destination. I'm a treadmill wearing a Thrones costume. But don't let the sermon fool you either. I'm not fake. Real things happen because of me. Hospitals get built by people chasing me. So do vaccines and schools. And yes, also wars and cages and silence bought with fear. I'm not good or evil. I'm just very, very good at getting used for both. Power doesn't leave so much as recede, like it's still in a room, just standing slightly behind you now, where you can't quite see it anymore. Quiet, the kind of quiet that used to be full. You, older now, alone in a room that is everything you were told to want. This is the scene nobody scripts because it doesn't have a villain and it doesn't have a resolution. Not yet. This is just the evening every honest life eventually has. The evening you look around at the money, the title, the people who once made your body ache with wanting them, and you feel very quietly underwhelmed. Every voice we've heard returns. Nature, want lust, money, power. Not fighting each other, just present, overlapping, quieter than before, like static from radios left on in other rooms. Here's the moment where most stories tell you it was all a lie. That money can't buy happiness, that power is empty, that lust fades, that none of it mattered. That's the normal way to tell this part. It's also too easy and a little bit condescending to everyone who lived it. Here's the other version. A new voice arrives, not loud, not dramatic. It should feel like the first honest thing, said all script. This is truth, or call it insight. The quietest character in the piece. Truth, none of them lied to you. Nature really did keep you alive. What really did make you reach further than comfort would have allowed. Lust really did connect you to people you'd have never spoken to otherwise. Money really did buy the roof over this quiet room. Power really did protect you, some of the time, from people who would have used their power on you first. They didn't lie. They just never claimed to be the whole answer. You did that part yourself. You heard "this will keep you safe" and translated it privately into "this will make me whole." And no drive, not one of them, was ever built to deliver on a promise it never made. Truth, they're not the destination. They were never the destination. They're the engine. You're the one who was supposed to decide where the car was going. Silence, long enough to feel uncomfortable. The room echoes the prologue. Same fluorescent hum, same kind of stillness. Except now you are old. The breathing is slow, familiar. And now the last visitor, the one every other voice in the script was secretly working for the whole time, whether they admitted it or not. Time enters, not a skeleton with a scythe, too theatrical, too easy. Time should look like an old friend who has been in the room the entire script and only now steps into the light. Time. I was at the birth. I was in the schoolyard. I was in the bedroom that night your body first ached for someone. I signed a lease with money. I stood behind power the whole time it wore its crown. I was even in the quiet room at dusk. I was the quiet. Here's the reframe that changes everything else in this script retroactively. Every force you met was really just time, wearing a different costume depending on which decade it needed your attention in. Time. I'm not here to take something from you. I already have. I've had it the whole way through. You were just too busy trading with the others to notice you were also quietly spending me. That's the one currency none of them ever mentioned, because none of them wanted the competition. Beat. Gentle, not grim. Time. So here's my only question, and I only get to ask it once. Of everything the others offered you, the safety, the wanting, the ache, the trust made spendable, the crown built from fear, which of it did you let become love? Because that's the only exchange rate I actually honor. Silence. The heartbeat from the prologue returns, slower now, but unmistakably the same rhythm. So here's the version of this story you don't usually get. The normal way to tell it goes like this. Nature is instinct, money is greed, lust is sin, power is corruption. A list of temptations to resist on the way to something pure. Very tidy, very useless, because it asks you to fight parts of yourself that were never your enemies to begin with. Here's the other way to tell it. All seven. Nature, want, lust, money, power, fear implied throughout, never needed its own scene. Time, are visible now together for the first time, not as separate characters, but almost as one figure standing in different light. There were never seven different forces competing for your life. They were one force, wearing seven different masks, depending on what decade it needed to reach you in. The name of that one force is the oldest word there is, older than any language. Continue. Nature says continue breathing. Want says continue matching. Lust says continue the line. Money says continue trusting strangers enough to build something bigger than one person could alone. Power says continue safely, above the reach of what once frightened you. And time was never against you. Time was just the ledger, keeping an honest count of how you spent all the rest. The normal story ends with a warning. Don't let money corrupt you. Don't let lust ruin you. Don't let power change you. That's not wrong exactly. It's just aimed at the wrong target. None of them will ruin you by existing in your life. They ruin people only when one of them gets mistaken for the whole reason to be alive, when the engine gets treated like the destination. The heartbeat, one last time, steady, unhurried. You didn't arrive on Earth with a script. You arrived with an engine, 7 cylinders strong, all built by a few billion years of things wanting very badly to continue. Nobody hands you the steering wheel at the door. You have to notice, somewhere in the middle of the ride, that you were given one. That's the whole secret. Not resist the drives. Not chase the drives. Drive. The heartbeat fades, not into silence, but into something that sounds very faintly like it's still going somewhere.